Diese Sitzung wird aufgenommen. Benny, bitte erst anschneiden, wenn wir loslegen. Jetzt kommt der Herr.
Right.
Yes, it's working.
Yes. Can you hear me okay? I haven't
I
played
can
with the
hear
sound
you
levels.
perfectly fine.
Great. Great.
Just 1 second here. How are you doing, my friend?
I am good. I'm good. Grateful for the opportunity to talk, to be honest.
Yeah, of course. And you bought the microphone, right? I saw it on Instagram.
Yeah. This one. Got a Rode one.
Did you try it out before?
Yeah. I like the quality of it.
Yeah.
This is strange though. The feedback in the headphones.
The headphones are great. I don't think it's necessary when like the two of us are talking, but in like conversation with more than two people, it's a necessity because otherwise people start talking over each other. So I think we tried it once with 3 or 4 people with no headphones, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
Because people just talk over people, but once you hear yourself on the headphones, it sounds really weird if you literally like just interrupting somebody and speaking over them. So we'll stick to it for a second.
Yeah. No problem.
How are you doing? I mean, it feels like so that everybody knows we haven't met yet, right?
No.
This is the first live meeting. But you know, it's the age of internet, so we've seen each other's work, I guess. I mean, I've seen yours. I don't know if you've seen mine. And I just love to have good conversations with not even coaches, but with people with a different view on whatever it is. So here we are. So I mean, we got to introduce ourselves a bit. So where are you from? I mean, obviously from the UK, but where exactly?
A place called Preston. It's about half an hour from Manchester.
Half an hour from Manchester. Okay, that's a cool spot. I know Manchester. I've been there. I've never been to Manchester. I've been a couple of times to the UK.
Okay. Whereabouts have you been to?
Well, obviously London a couple of times. I would have loved to say I've studied in Canterbury, but I was. That's a long time ago. I was in Canterbury for 3 months during school. I did like a language, what's that called? Like a language camp or like school exchange program. And because I was really bad speaking English, so they sent me to Canterbury, which is it's a lovely town, but let's say it's not the most vibrant place on earth, right? So I've been to Canterbury. I've been to Ireland a couple of times. Yeah, that was about it. So Preston. So just tell everybody that's listening, what are you doing? Like obviously, like I can see the weights in the back. You're training people. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I use this small space, like a studio space, to train people. Mainly to bring them back to themselves is basically the theme of what I've ended up doing.
Yeah.
But that comes from trying everything else first.
Got it. So you've just run me through your whatever it is, coaching, training journey. So you started, is that something you've quote unquote learned? Did you study something else? How did you end up as, you know, one of the worst professions on earth, which is not, it has, let's say not the best impression, I guess, not the best. So where did you start and how did you end up with it?
To be fair, I have a balance of two. This is absolutely my passion. I love it, and I have something which pays the bills as well, which affords me the freedom to do what I like with this. So I never feel the pressure with it. So in terms of coaching, I've always trained from a young age, always loved the gym, always loved exercise, a kid who was always outside, loved the outdoors, still do to this day. And that sort of came, so well, it started with the bodybuilding. Everybody reads Men's Health first and starts with the bro splits and things like that. And to be fair, I still love them. But that moved on to more of the functional fitness style type of gym, and then moved on to CrossFit. And that's where I started coaching at CrossFit, particularly specializing in things like Olympic weightlifting. That was what I really enjoyed. But after a few years, I found myself in the wrong place. Just a square peg in a round hole. I just didn't fit the community. Just because I felt like there wasn't enough individual focus. So at that point, it was time to experiment with things which were outside of that realm, and do something which I felt was a little closer to what I actually wanted to be doing, which is what I do now, which is using health and fitness to help people process things which are a little deeper, to be fair. That's what I really enjoy.
So wait, I got a couple of questions here. So the first one is, so training other people is like your side thing, and what's the main thing, if you want to talk about it? If it's
I'm a lawyer.
Oh, nice. So that kind of pays the bills.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
So that is one of the great freedoms with it, is that it affords me the time in the gym and working with people to really focus on them without having to think about how do I get people through the door, because it literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's weird.
And that's almost like the freedom that I get from that allows me to be more creative in what I do with coaching. Got
it. So day job is being a lawyer, and like the fun job is training people.
It's not the fun job. It's everything else. For every other second is what runs through it. And I don't think I accidentally got into being a lawyer, because the drive is still the same. And to most people, they seem like two wildly different things that I do. But to me, they're exactly the same.
Tell me more about it. How do you see that?
I love to help people. And I can help people. I can do the best that I can do in any situation to help people. So being a lawyer is just that, because I do a lot of childcare work. So it's about protecting vulnerable children. Whereas this is about just the exact same people, exact same help, but I'm just helping later down the line. To me, they're both exactly the same in terms of what I'm doing.
That's yeah. If you see like this, training for me, and I guess I don't want to have your opinion on it as well, is training is not like a side thing. It's not outsourcing something that you're not good at. Like, if I have a legal problem, I go to a lawyer, obviously. If I want to have a nice steak, a nice piece of meat, I'll go to the butcher. And I think nowadays it's the same. That's the same view as in fitness. Like, I want to get fit. I'm going to outsource my journey or my goals or my success, whatever, to the gym, and I'm going to pay them for it, right? And apparently, it's not working. Let's get one step back. So tell me more about the CrossFit days. So did you make a living out of coaching in a CrossFit gym, or was that just a?
There was more pressure than. Definitely. I was coaching quite a lot of hours. That was in my early days of my legal career. So I was not covering the bills quite. So I was doing both. I was doing a lot of hours in the office and a lot of hours in the gym. But that was invaluable, because it gives you the reps. And I think when it comes to coaching or anything really, we need the reps. We need to be doing something else that somebody else has taught us to realize, well, this one doesn't fit, because if I don't try, how will I know?
Sure. So how long have you been coaching in a CrossFit gym before you started realizing, ooh, like this doesn't feel, at least not right, but not the way how I want to do it?
Probably about three years, I think it was. And I'm a bit like that in terms of personality. I'm like a worm on the end of a fishing line. If I don't want to be there, I don't want to be there. So I'm getting off.
Okay. What was the? Is there something like positive you can take out of that experience? I mean, I guess you can, but what are like the positive, not outcomes, but your positive impressions, or what did you learn during those 4 years in the CrossFit gym?
Well, there's all of the CrossFit methodology, which I think is still absolutely brilliant. What I didn't like was the division between CrossFit and CrossFit Sport. That was really where I felt like it wasn't for me, because the gym that I was in was more geared towards the sport in terms of their programming and the way that the community was. Whereas I gravitated towards coaching in the morning, and those people tended to be people who would come to have a better day. And that was the value, the real big value. I mean, there were numerous things that I've learned, coaching techniques, things like that. But the main theme was that helping people to have a better day and to be able to attack life in a different way from an hour, a few hours in the gym, that really meant something to me. Whereas competing in the sport of CrossFit meant absolutely nothing to me.
Did you ever compete in CrossFit, or did you have any ambitions in the beginning?
I did, just because it was the done thing, but never particularly enjoyed it. I did, and I was all right, but nothing crazy.
That was so. I mean, I started in a CrossFit gym as well. Yeah, it was the first ever here in Austria, like 10, 12 years ago. The first ever CrossFit gym in Austria, like an empty room with 2 barbells, a pull-up rig, and 3 kettlebells, and that was it. And I kind of got hooked into it. But isn't that weird? Like everybody, and I think it's so attracting to people, that sport aspect, and it kind of caught me as well, obviously, because everybody saw that. What was it called? The CrossFit movie, Every Second Counts.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody who watched that movie at the end was like, okay, I'm going to compete at the CrossFit Games, like right now, because everybody was pumped. And this is great, because like it brought people off the couch and made training interesting again. Because like 10, 12 years ago, there was not much you could do. You could go to the gym, like a global gym. You could do bodybuilding. You could do maybe powerlifting, but that was weird. That was weird already. Weightlifting, at least here in Austria, is like 3 clubs and 5 people doing it. And 2 of them went to the Olympics. So it wasn't really like common to go to a gym and do like functional training. So I tipped my hat for that to CrossFit. But I think they missed something very important. And you mentioned it before, that departure, or at least somebody stepping up and saying, okay, this is the sport. 99.9% of you out there shouldn't do this because of A, B, C, D. And this is like a sports program, and this is our, whatever we're going to call it, training methodology, or I don't know, training regime for average Joes and soccer moms out there. Okay, so you were done with CrossFit, more or less. I mean, done, mentally done with CrossFit. What did you do next? What was your thought process?
There wasn't one. There was just, like I say about being a worm on a line, I've got to get off this. I don't know where it's going, and I don't, it doesn't resonate anymore, so I need to get off. And then my youngest son was born, so that took a lot of focus whilst he was young. But I was always training at home, always looking for something to learn, and there's always an insatiable sort of drive to learn something. I have to be learning, otherwise I feel, well, that gets into something wider, where I think that the feeling of being stuck comes from that, is that we're not learning. but I always have to learn something. So I would go wholeheartedly into something. So started to look at kettlebell training because I could do it at home and be around my son and be around my family. So that was a really good skill set to learn too. And then I started to look for something else, which is when I found sandbags. So I went wholeheartedly to sandbags, of course, 100% to everything.
Yeah.
But doing that was brilliant because you start with the bodybuilding and you learn how to get a pump. Then moved on to CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting, so almost pure barbell, and then to pure kettlebell, and then to pure sandbags. And there's nowhere else to go now. But in each of them, you find all of the sort of themes throughout them. Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of benefit comes from for me, is that we've got to pick from different areas, different tools, and be able to apply them universally. Mm-hmm. So that was very helpful to me to be where I am now, in a place where I feel like I can help others no matter what their circumstances are. So do you want to be in a CrossFit gym, but we need to look at a specific thing, like you're getting back pain from this or shoulder pain from this? Okay, let's look at that. But if you're in a Globo gym and you want to train to feel better, okay, we can do that. Or are you a dad who's just had, or a mum who's just had a child and you want to be able to train at home? Okay, what have we got? What can we do? And it changed the conversation then from I need to go to the gym to what have I got and what can I do? Mm-hmm. And then my work from there and my thinking is always, well, what's the next step? Because initially when people come, they come with a problem. There's always something that brings people to me, and I would imagine to you, there's a need that isn't being met that we have to address. And then it's okay, well, what's at our disposal and what do we need to do to tackle that one thing? And then once we can kind of create safety there, what's next? And then we grow our sphere of what we can tolerate, and we'll again get back to that place where we might have a little bit of unsafety. So in that increased sphere of what we can tolerate, mm-hmm. how can we then create safety in that next level up? And then it sort of becomes a never-ending process. And I think that transition through all of those phases helped me to realize that. And then all coaching becomes to me then is, what step are you at? How can I create safety there? Then how can we grow that sphere of what you can tolerate or what we can go after? And then how do we create safety there? And then next step, create safety, next step. And then it becomes process driven.
Mm-hmm. So run me through like a typical, I'm not saying onboarding, but how does a typical, how does a person approach you, right? So they heard you doing something, right? Whether they saw it on Instagram or through friends, word of mouth, etc., and they call you, right? How does your process look like? Okay, so because I'm a gym owner, like a big gym owner, and I always think about, okay, how can I fit? What's the best onboarding process? What's the best way to put people into group classes? Like that's not what you need to think about. Is that correct? Are mm-hmm. you only doing like one-on-ones or small groups? Yeah, go ahead.
One-on-ones. So when somebody comes to me, I'm immediately thinking, what does the body tell me? Mm-hmm. Because one of the things I believe is that the body will show us everything that's going on. And that's something that I've picked up from Richard, who does Barracuda Way, mm-hmm. is that there's very much an emotional movement tie. So the first thing before we can do any sort of steps forward is we need to know where we're at.
Mm-hmm. And how do you do that? Are you explaining the process to a person, or are you just doing this more or less as a, I don't know, like a screening just from talking to that person, or is it like an assessment setting? How do you do this?
So we'll have a first conversation to see where they're at. And that's usually just mostly them talking, because people's words will tell a lot about where they are and how they're feeling. So I try to tease out as much as possible to see where we go. Then when they come to see me, it's like a movement screening and assessment where I'm looking for the imbalances. It may just be that we're looking to fix some of those imbalances to get rid of pain, for example. So if that next step forward is I have pain that I need to get rid of, or I want to get rid of, then that's where we start. But if people are working or want to work towards something that isn't just physical, and they realize that they don't feel how they want to feel, then I will still look at the body first. So I'm looking for postural muscles, sort of whether the lats, the teres, the pecs, what's not working, and do we have side-to-side imbalances? And it does go very deep, and it goes more onto sort of spiritual type conversations. But they are then helping those muscle imbalances and the weaknesses are then helping me to formulate conversation as to where we need to go and what do we need to do to create that safety. So say, for example, we've got like a muscle that isn't working, and then we're getting any sort of pain from it. We've removed that barrier of safety. So the first thing before anything that we need to do is to create a little more safety in the body for me, because I feel like we spend far too much time these days in our head. I want more body, less head as a start to guide us to a better place. But I don't get to decide where that is. And I believe that everybody's body can tell us where that is.
So you're starting to move with that person, right? You've done an assessment, whether it's visual or vocal. So how long does a session take, roughly? Is that always like 60 minutes? Is it 90 minutes? Is it open-end? Is it?
I try to leave them open-ended because a lot of people, when they come to you with a problem, is because it's been internalized and not expressed for however long. So if it's been kept inside for years and years, that conversation or the movement screening might lead to a conversation that takes hours. The most I try to keep them below 2 hours, but because they can go as long as they go. I try to draw the line at 2 hours, but I want people to feel like it's a safe space, and that's what I'm trying to create for people. Because if I can receive them where they are and meet them where they're at and give them that space to be themselves, where they're struggling to find that elsewhere, they know that then we can work towards something. So to create that safe space for me is one of the key things from that initial encounter, because it takes a lot of trust to put your health in somebody else's hands effectively.
Hell yeah, especially if you had, let's say, maybe not bad experiences, but like not the most joyful hours in gyms or with PTs or whoever you trained with, or you've never trained at all, which makes it even worse because you're scared, you're anxious, obviously, because it's frightening. Training should be frightening at some point, but it's something new. It's like me learning a new language or you learning a new instrument or whatever it is. So how often do you see your clients on average? In a week, in a month?
Usually twice a month is the average. But I leave that up to people to decide. One thing I never want people to feel like is that they're reliant on me. I'm essentially trying to work myself to a place where I'm no longer needed. I want to build in the knowledge for people so that they can think, oh, this is happening to me again. I have this pattern of this muscle breaking down or this behavioral pattern that comes up in these situations, and this is what I need to do to bring my safety back.
So I'm sorry for the practical questions, but I want to understand your process of coaching. So are you giving your clients like a homework? Because it's like, I don't know, you figure out, okay, this is the imbalance, this is what you need to be working on until we see each other next time. So they're getting kind of homework.
Yeah, absolutely. And programming down to as much as they need. So say, for example, you've got somebody in a CrossFit gym, then we might just have the warm up and maybe one session a week where we can address these things. Okay, that's fine. But some people are down to every day. Here's what we need to be doing, and the programming is there for them to follow. But one thing I will say to people is I can't do the program for you. So it needs you to turn up and do it for you, because I'm not in a position of being a cheerleader. I'm absolutely here and I'm behind you, but I can't be by your side all the time, because I feel like that steals people's lessons from them if I was to do everything, if I give them too much. And that's not me saying I don't believe in like the CrossFit group fitness. That's not what I mean. It's just a one-to-one all the time, me checking up on you, making sure you're doing something all the time. I don't feel is that beneficial for what I'm trying to do for people. I want to help them get to their own sense of control in all of this.
I think, and I love to have opposing views with somebody. I still think so too, but I think group training brings such a nice flavor to it, right? But it's very hard to execute, because like the weaker people, like I'm not saying physically weaker people, but like people who like are looking for a group, are looking for a community, are looking for a tribe, those are usually those ones that get swallowed up in like normal group training, because they just get pushed to the side and they get scaled options and scaled exercises, and they're kind of happy that they're still there, right? I've had a very good, not an idea, but a concept of, because I don't like communities. That sounds weird, but a community, I see it more as a tribe. So that means you're going to bring your personality, your identity, whatever it is, into the group session. Obviously, you have to adapt to that group that you're training with, because otherwise we won't meet here in my gym, because otherwise you would be training at home. But you still got to figure out, okay, this is what the group needs to do, but this is my portion of what taking out of that group session. And that's hard, because that's usually not how group training is done. Usually it's a top-down approach. You just read out the workout and you're, okay, this is how you're going to do it, and you show the movement and blah 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 blah. So that's my biggest challenge here in the gym, having 120 people and maybe 10 max of 12 people in a class. But that's so fun. Which is trying to figure out how to do it best. We're not done yet, for sure not. But that's just my part. Like I love group training. Like I think it gives a certain flavor to people. But I totally get your approach of being as personalized as possible, especially in the setting that you have, right?
The thing is, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Because if we can get the best of both worlds, like you're trying to achieve, it's brilliant. It just so happens that I have a smaller space, so it doesn't allow for that.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. What do you think is, because I have, like, my vision is I wanna add something to not add something to the fitness world, but kind of change the perception of what training should be like, how training should look like, what implements, what equipments to use, how to whatever, like any stereotype that's been out there. I want to crush it, and then let people figure out what they need to do, right? So what do you think? What should be the first step towards that vision, towards that goal? What do you think?
I'm usually quite a top-down thinker, so I generally look at big picture first. And I think something that I would say for that would be that covers kind of everything that you've just said there, is that I would prioritize the inside over the outside. So what do you need to do? Not what is everybody around you doing. What do you need from this workout, from the programming that's up today, to make your day, week, life better, to be moving in the right direction. Mm-hmm. So that would be the first place I would go in that sense, would be to try to help people look at what's going on for them. And I know that's very difficult in a group setting to not compete and things like that, but how can we prioritize you in this hour in the gym?
I'm basically asking you the same questions that I'm asking myself every single day, and I'm looking for smart answers. I know there's no the smartest answer out there, because like my thing is, I love working as much as I love working with people. For some reason, I love working with coaches. Like it's the same level, because I feel like once we get better coaches out there, that means that have maybe the same mindset or the same knowledge, whether it's physically or mentally, about how to train people. Like I could have so much more impact, right? Don't get me wrong. It's awesome. My gym's awesome. I have 120 people who are like, I hope so. They're happy and they're learning something every single session. And sometimes it's just having fun and throwing down, whatever it is. What's missing in the world of educating coaches out there? What's your take on it? Like let's make it personal. What would you like to have to grow as a coach? What, if you could have one wish from what's she called, the fairy? Is it a fairy? The three
genie.
wishes, the genie, the 3 wishes from Genie. What will be the first one in terms of coaching?
Do they have to be things that are tangible? Because
no, absolutely not. It's a genie.
Shall we go through 3 then? The first one would,
yeah, sure.
I've got 2. The first one would be to know my blind spot. Mm-hmm. I would love to know my blind spot.
You mean your blind? I'm sorry to interrupt. Your blind spot in coaching?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because every time I come up with an idea to be able to help people and to move people forward, there's always something that I haven't considered. Mm-hmm. Always. And I would love to know what that was before I went into or took every next step with somebody.
All right.
I'd also like to know my next step. Mm-hmm. I would love to know that ahead of time, but that's just probably a control thing in wanting to know path and direction. But in the absence of that one, I think that it's a case of, well, I get to create that in the things that I do on a daily basis, on the direction that I choose to take. So I guess I don't really need the second one, but the first one would be really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about the question a lot, and because I think I've never talked about this. Well, you're the first one to hear it. So my thing is, I've been into coaching for like almost 15 years now, and I would love to create something that I always wanted to have when I started coaching. You know what I mean? It's like having you choose the word, whether it's an academy, whether it's an online place, whether it's a tribe, whether it's a forum, whether it's, I don't know, a podcast. We can ask ourselves those questions, because I think every challenge, every problem can be solved through conversation plus actually doing it. And I think there's so many like-minded coaches like you out there who want to change stuff, who are not super happy in the current situation, and they just don't know how to do it. And that's what I've been missing, like in the first 10, 12, 15 years of my coaching, quote unquote, career. But I think that's very much needed, like a place where coaches, gym owners can talk openly about their ideas. And it's not an educational program. Yes, I can add some of my little experience into that, but it's more like, okay, I have an idea and I have no clue if it's seriously stupid, and I want to talk about it. You know what I mean? It's not just you sitting at home alone with your kids and you're like, well, I got this idea, but I'm not quite sure if I should do it. And then you do it anyways, and then it takes 3 years to figure it out. But what if we discuss this in a broader spectrum, with crazy ideas that nobody ever thought about? So that's kind of my thing. And obviously I can provide some basic knowledge, like physical, like muscles and how to activate them, and my approach, my find stress use approach, and how to train people properly, etc. That should be the base for everybody. I think we can agree on that. But other than that, I just love hearing other people's stories and ideas.
Yeah, I think that'd be amazing for people. It's almost like a safe space to experiment as well, isn't it?
Yeah, because just imagine you want to sign up for a gym, and you know that gym is safe is such a hard word. It will accept you the way you are, no matter if you're overweight, you've never done sports before, or you have a problem and you can't talk about it. Like your biceps is not working, or your bench is stalling, or I don't know, you want to lift 250 kilo deadlifts, but you don't want to join a powerlifting gym. You know what I mean? Like it's every layer of challenge and problem. I can go there and ask somebody a question. And I might not know the answer, but I'm happy to figure out how to go there.
You'd have so many people's experiences as well, wouldn't you? In that place, especially if they were all coaches, because we all get our information from learning from other people, but it's very unlikely that we'd all have had similar experiences. So somebody's going to have something that could potentially steer you.
Yeah, and that's literally why I created that podcast, because I think there's so many great ideas out there, and people like you are like, I can't talk about this openly, like in public, because it sounds weird and whatever it is. And even if you don't care, like even if you don't care, maybe there's like a second opinion from somebody in New Zealand or in, I don't know, in China, who's like, oh, that sounds great. I've done this for 3 years now, and these are my takes on it. And why not have a conversation about it? And you figure it out, you try it out, and see if it works. Because this was always my issue with CrossFit at the end of my CrossFit quote unquote career. Is it used to be an open source methodology. I think we can agree on that, with powerlifting, weightlifting, running, self-defense, bodybuilding, you name it, running. And then it kind of stopped and be like, okay, this is the only thing we're going to do. This 15 exercises executed to oblivion. And the one who can shut down his mind the best wins everything, right? But what about we open the box of Pandora up and be like, okay, what if the combination of bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman, I can name 12 different sports now, is not the solution, but it's the way to go. And how we're going to coach it, this is what we're going to spend the next 50 years on. Right?
It's funny you say that, because when it comes to programming for the people that I help, I have a framework that I'll give to people, which includes what they need in their warm-ups and what they need to be activating in their accessory work. But a lot of the main parts are generic on purpose, because then it provides choice. So just like you were saying, what if there's 3 people in a gym? Somebody wants to max out bench, somebody wants to do clean and jerk. And, why can't we have that open-ended, do express that in your strength in the way that you want?
Yeah. But so the challenge is, the way we're doing it here in the gym is we're doing cycles, but not in a classical sense, like we're doing fucking squat cycles and 12 weeks small off, kill your hips thingies. But we have like 4-week topics, because I think 4 weeks are great, because nobody concentrates any longer than 4 weeks on something, me included. We have a funny topic, like you name it. Like we had a sexy ET squad, and we worked with visuals, and obviously we're focusing on the outside torque chain and being explosive and that kind of stuff. But it's 4 weeks, and then we move on to the next one. And then we have like a certain sports focus in it, which is sometimes it's more powerlifting, sometimes it's more strongman, so people can get off. And it's always bodybuilding in there. I won't just say it, because it's we get the pump, we do activation stuff, we stress the shit out of muscles, we combine it with the torque chains, we use it in training, which is probably one of the most, it's not overlooked, but okay, give me your opinion on it. What I see now in the evolution of the fitness world is you're either stuck on one side, which is activation exercises, or you're stuck on the other side, which is mindless meathead training, right?
You mean on the mindless meathead? Do you mean like full max out lifts all the time?
Yeah, CrossFit basically. CrossFit, powerlifting, like everything that should require a little bit more of technical work, of assistance work, of bodybuilding work, of like balancing everything out. That's what I mean with it. I don't have any problem with it. I love powerlifting. I love strongman. I love throwing heavy weights around with a barbell, with a sandbag. I don't care. My thing is, I think we as coaches, we should provide a certain structure. It's like, not barbell training is bad. It's like, okay, this is where you are. I always have 3 questions. One is, how strong you want to be, how strong you need to be, and how much time are you giving me? Those are my 3 questions, and that determines which strategy we're using and which equipment we're using. If you give me 20 hours a week, we probably start with barbell training like pretty soon. If you give me 2 hours a week, it's maybe 2 years down the stretch, right? So my point is, because right now I think people like, okay, barbells only, sandbags only, kettlebells only. Kind of, you described your own journey, and I think at some point we'll all come to the conclusion it's a mix of it, and depends on what you need, what you want to do. And I would love to pick your brain on how can we structure that for people and for coaches especially.
See, I think that comes back to what we were saying earlier about being, and in your 3 questions you touch on it, but what do you need? But if we want to put,
most people don't know. That's my point. Mm-hmm. Like when I ask people, what do you want? How strong you need to be? Is like, well, I don't really know.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like people come to a gym or to a trainer not really knowing what they want, and it seems like whichever camp that coach or trainer sits in, you must belong to our camp then. Mm-hmm. But there are, like you say, there are a number of options. So I think the only way to treat it is to treat it like suits. Go into the changing room and try it on. Mm-hmm. Does it fit nicely? Does it work well for you? When does it work well for you? When doesn't it work well for you? What do you get out of it? So do you feel better a couple of hours after you've done it? Or do you feel worse? Does it give you energy, take away? And then you start to find out, well, who are you and what do you like from your training? Because then it becomes the bigger conversation of how does training help life? Mm-hmm. Not just how do we do training. But I think that comes as a question sort of later on in life. I don't think anybody starting in the 20s would ever think of that question.
No, for sure not. I like how you describe the process, because like you start training and then, or you start learning, you start training, you start playing sports, and then in the process you figure out, okay, what do you want to do, and what do I actually need to do to feel great about myself, or to become the body that I always wanted to have, whatever. I have a fun story about a lady who used to train here at the gym, and she said to me one day, it's like, Greg, I need to run like 5 times a week now. I was like, why? And she's like, okay, I want to lose weight. It's like, I get it. Then she quit the membership and she started running. Came back to the gym, obviously, because she hates running, but she thought she needs to do running to lose some weight, right? To do cardiovascular, blah, 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 to shed the fat and whatever, get the body that she wants. She comes back to the gym. I think it was a deadlift session or a sandbag carry session, picks up the sandbag. She weighed like whatever, 55 kilos, picked up an 80 kilo sandbag and carried for like forever. I was like, sweetheart, I think you found your sport, right? And she was like so happy and was like, oh, it's like, you're fucking naturally strong. You've never done this before. You're just strong. Like, I mean, sorry, but look at your hips. Like these are not runners' hips. Your hips are made for carrying heavy stuff. I'm sorry. You could, I mean, maybe you don't like it. I get it, but maybe you just found what you need to do in the process of training.
And don't people go the other way as well? There's the other side of that, which is, I want to do this running, so it's going to injure my ankles because I don't run with the correct pattern. I'm going to get sore knees, but I am going to do this because I decided to do this. And that is the exact opposite of what I want for people.
Yeah, and that is fine to a certain extent, right? Because people should always have the chance to come back to you and be like, okay, I figured it out. I don't want to be a runner. It's like, cool. Let me keep prepping your body for whatever you want to figure out, whether it's jiu-jitsu or running or climbing or just being in my gym. Like I don't get to decide what your sports activity will be like, but I can create a framework where you can train safely and get stronger and just try shit and not break. And that's the main purpose of my gym.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? It's preparation for what do you want, but that, like we said, it's about that experimentation. You've got to go out and try things and see how they work, and we can then use the gym as like you were saying, the safe place to, okay, well, at least I know if this experiment isn't working, that I'm still looking after myself in the gym, and then they can move on to try something else. But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I think that's just such a learned pattern. And maybe this is too far of a stretch here, but like people tend to think, okay, I'm going to study whatever, law, legal affairs, right? That's the only thing I'm going to do. And when I'm done, I'm going to start working as a lawyer and I'm going to be there for the next 60 years. So, and this is, I think nowadays how people see training. Like I sign up for the gym, whether it's a CrossFit gym, whether it's my gym, whether it's your small place, whether it's a Zumba gym, it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the next 60 years, right? And I'm going to be so disappointed if I quit after 2 years. It's like, no, that's awesome. Like, because you figure out what you don't want to do. And I think this is how it works. You don't figure out what you want to do. It's you figure out what you don't want to do. And I'll be happy to cancel your membership if you found something else where you're going to be super happy with it. I was like, I'm happy for you, man.
Isn't that the business we're in? Helping people be happy?
No, it's not. I mean, maybe what we're doing, what we're trying to do, but not the general approach to fitness.
Yeah, not the wider approach.
Yeah. Let me just look at my cheat screen here. Yeah. What do you think? Are you in contact with any other coaches, like in your area? Yeah.
I go to other gyms. I speak to other coaches that are around, and I have toyed with doing classes and helping out at other gyms. But I immediately get that feeling of square peg, round hole. Mm-hmm. Can't do this. Shouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. Almost immediately. So I think, but I love coaching groups. I do love it. I love the feeling of the collective experience. I really do. Mm-hmm. So I think that may be the next step for me to figure out, well, what's an acceptable sphere for me to do that? Mm-hmm. How do I do that? Do I do workshops? That's probably the next step that I'm going to look at. Well, how would I do that? Mm-hmm. Because I've spent a lot of time developing a system, almost as close as a system as it can be, with the sort of limitation of everybody's an individual. I've been trying to develop that to a place where I'm happy with it. And now I feel like I'm in a place where if somebody comes to me with any kind of discomfort in terms of their health, I feel confident that I can help them.
Mm-hmm.
And I say help them, not fix them, because I don't think I fix anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think they fix themselves. I feel confident that I can help them. And that's taken me years to develop the confidence in myself to be able to think, no, I can help. 100% I can help.
Mm-hmm.
But can you commit to helping yourself is a different question.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing will be, how can I, is there any, well, not is there any benefit? What benefit could I bring in a group setting? And then how do I structure that into workshops?
And out of your own experience and talking and working with other coaches or just seeing other coaches, like what do you think is practically speaking, what is the biggest need right now for coaches out there? Like very practically speaking, how could we make a joint venture tomorrow, the two of us. What would be the first step for us? What would make the biggest impact for coaches in existing gyms so they'll do a better job on Monday?
That quick, I'm not sure my answer would fit. To teach them to be able to do it over time and then be able to implement for somebody day one, I think it would be to make it more personal. I think even in a group setting, can we treat people as individuals? With the coaches that I speak to around here, they've all got their own clients, and the way what I seem to see is that everything is fixed. It's the 5x5, 3 sets of 10 type of mentality. It's because this system worked for me, therefore copy and paste. That would be the biggest change that I would hope to bring to people, the biggest awareness that there's far more than just lift this weight. Are we considering that person's experiences? How has the day been? Can we bring how they're coming into sessions into how we're going to attack the session? So could we create a framework for, if you feel like this, then attack this same workout in this way? So maybe as a practical example, to do one person who's had a particularly hard day, you're going to sprint, you're going to express, you're going to use that energy that you've built up from the day, you're going to go. Whereas somebody else who might be particularly low on energy, I want you to think about flowing through this workout and using nasal breathing only. Can we bring yourself back to some form of feeling more about you, whereas the other person might need to express that energy? And can we do that for everyone? That very difficult, by no means an easy feat. But I think that would be the best thing that I would think I could bring to coaches.
I mean, I'm a very practical guy. So I was always thinking, maybe, so if you give me 5 minutes of your 60-minute sessions and you're like a hardcore CrossFit gym, like people are coming in to like throw down, how can I make them interested in thinking above and beyond the 5x5, right? And not my solution, but my best shot at it, or my best answer right now is, what if I can provide, like practically speaking, I can activate like your hamstrings on a deadlift, and you understand what a hamstring is actually doing in a deadlift. So coming away from an anatomical perspective into more of a movement perspective. Yes, it's bending the knee, but that's not what you're doing in a deadlift. So this is what your hamstring should feel like. This is what it's actually doing. So it's pushing you off the floor for the first 30 centimeters. I can have an impact of 5 minutes, and people are going to deadlift before, people are going to deadlift afterwards, and they're going to see progress, whether it's more weight or a different feeling. So I'm always thinking about the most practical way to show people, okay, you're fucking wrong and I'm fucking right. I'm just joking. So they see like a little glimpse of light on the other side of their dark movement room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to give people the small wins to see it the way, or there may possibly be a way that I haven't been doing that might work.
Yes, and my hope is that like 1 out of 10 coaches who have presented will be like, oh, that felt different. That's cool. I wanna dive a little bit more into it. And how can I do this? So like chop it up and present like very small bits and pieces of learning. Because my own experience was like I'm a very bad learner. Like I need a lot of time. I need a lot of time, need a lot of repetitions. I need to go through stuff like almost for years until I fully understand. So I'm a very, let's call it slow learner, not a bad learner. I'm a slow learner. And typically, like coaches don't have that much time, or they don't want to take time because it's not interesting, right? Because somebody sends them like a YouTube link of, okay, I'm the gym owner. You guys watch that fucking YouTube link for 10 minutes, and you're going to implement that awesome rehab practice in the next session, right? So it's not interesting. Like it's not you learning, it's you absorbing something and try to make the best out of it. And I guess that will be the way for me moving forward. Like, give me 5 minutes, and hopefully I can make you deadlift your PR your deadlift. That would be awesome.
I could have done with that when I was a child, to be honest.
You what? Say that again?
I could have done with that when I was younger, not a child, late teens. So I've had both of my ACLs reconstructed. So that is why I like to help people who are in pain, because I've been there. But I could have done with that exact 5 minutes at that time in a way that I could have digested. So if I'd have been able to connect with my inside hamstring and made it stronger and increase the mobility in it, then there wouldn't have been the collapsing of the knees that comes with the ACL tear.
Yeah.
That would have been phenomenal to me.
Did it just pop through, I don't know, doing sports or?
Football, both of them. Yeah. And then I did the left twice, and the second time it was MMA that I was doing. So yeah, that wasn't great. But it's when you start to, like you say, it takes a long time to learn that there's a link between this 5-minute drill on getting your hamstring to work and never having a surgery, which is going to take you 2 years to recover from. And
that's my. I mean, we call it fine stress use, but you call it differently. That's, I think, bridging the gap between lifting heavy and doing assistance work, right? Because I feel like there's a gap in between there. You can do, like, there's 1,000 hamstring activation exercises out there, right? And there's another 1,000 exercises how to improve your deadlift. But I hope it's not too boring. Let's just give me 2 minutes to explain how to do it. Or how we do it in here. So
this is where I live. I love the stuff that you're about to talk about.
Okay, so maybe I'll take 3 minutes. So the defined approach for us is, this is about certain muscles, right? And we structure them like the inner muscles, outer muscles, etc. Basic functions, etc. So we're going to focus on one muscle. The next step is we try to activate it. It's not mentally finding it. Like, you need to feel it. Like, I'm all on Arnie's side. The most important thing about when you train the biceps is you got to think about the triceps or biceps, right? And then we go into, and this is all in a 60-minute session. This is not a 3-month process. Okay, this is the movement today. This is the muscle we want to find. Call it the inside hamstring, for example. And then we go to the stressing part. If there's certain rep ranges and certain methodologies we use, and this is all about the movement pattern, right? So if you want to use the inside hemi, for example, for that movement pattern, or it's a squatting pattern or a hinging pattern, I don't like those words. I usually go for move the hips and lock the hips, because it gets away from the exercise names, right? The squat and the hinge, because everybody has some investments in those names, squat and deadlift. So I call it move the hips and lock the hips. So we're gonna practice using that muscle plus connecting to other muscles through the movement pattern. That means we're gonna stick to one chain only. And then the next step is we're gonna do exercises, whether it's a sandbag carry or a deadlift or you name it, whether it's pushing the sled. So we're gonna combine the two movement chains, right? Inner and outer movement chain. And this is a strategic approach. It's a systematic, it's a structured approach, right? I know it's not perfect because there's a lot of chaos in those connecting muscles, and it's not you do A, you do B, and then C happens, right? But I felt like coaches and people needed something for the first year or two, like they can hold on to, whether it's a structure where it's, okay, I'll do this, then I'll do this, and this is the outcome. And still telling them this is not the end of the journey. This is just the beginning. But this is how we start. This is how we start. And then you can go all into the weeds and be like, okay, I'm gonna explore this, fine. But you gotta do your homework first, and then you can go out and play, right? And I'm seeing both worlds. I'm just seeing those, okay, I'm gonna play all the time, and I'm gonna do my homework for 24 hours a day, which is I'm gonna solve every problem in my head, and the other group is I'm gonna solve every problem with the barbell, right? So that's the thing I want to add, and it's working perfectly here. And I've done a couple of workshops and try to figure out, okay, how can we present this so it gives some sort of safety structure, whatever you want to call it, and it gives you a sense of achievement. It's not, okay, this is the movement world. It's unstructured, and I have to think about breathing, the nervous system, muscles, my foot positioning, certain muscles at the same time, which I think will always end up in 0. Because you're trying to focus on 5 things at the same time. So we're structuring the classes with, we call it the learning phase. Like it's 5-7 minutes. Right? It's finding the muscle. Then we have like 10 minutes of the stressing part, which is, okay, we'll pick a movement pattern and we're just going to bang the shit out of it. If you're feeling the inside hamstring, awesome. Now we do whatever, stiff leg deadlift or sandbag squats now to get the inside hamstring firing. If you're there, okay, try to connect it with your glute max, for example, or with your obliques, right? And then comes the training part. This is the use part. And this is so important. And it's, I think, overlooked, is like, stop thinking. Stop thinking. Use fucking heavy weights. We're going to structure the way so you're not going to break. It's all good. It's 3 reps. It's 4 reps. It's 20 meters of sandbag carry. But I think there's a time when you have to stop thinking and just do stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think you mentioned it perfectly in the beginning with too many people are stuck in their head and not in their body, or mm-hmm. not doing enough with the body. And I think that's stuff that I learned in my own training, because I used to think a lot about training, and I still do, don't get me wrong. But at some point it's about, okay, fucking pick up that weight and carry it over there. Or you're scared about a 250 kilo deadlift. All right, we'll make it work, but you have to lift heavy at some point. And if your form is like, if you follow the process and your form is slightly breaking, it's like, I'm happy, because it has to. It has to.
And that tells us where to go next as well.
Right. So that's just my approach. That's how we teach. That's how we teach our coaches. How we're doing the workshops, etc. But I think it's just my take on how to structure it on one hand, how to give a little bit of chaos, a little bit of freedom, but also tell people like, okay, enough of thinking. This is go time. Pick it up and bring it to the other side of the gym, and that's it. You don't have to worry about anything. Like if you're carrying a heavy sandbag and you're thinking about, oh, are my hamstrings working? Are my obliques working? It might not be very heavy. I'm sorry.
Well,
go ahead.
For my guys on the sandbag carry, New Year's Day, as close to body weight as possible, 1 mile carry.
Oh my God.
Just because if you want to think, that's fine. You might be able to do it for 200 meters. What about the rest?
Yes, I mean, there's a very smart guy once said there's time and place for everything. We just got to make sure you're balancing it out. I mean, don't do it every day. Don't do it with like triple your body weight. Don't be stupid, right? But at some point, it's like, okay, I like it. Like carry a body weight sandbag for a mile it's going to take you more than 5 minutes. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. You find some things.
So combining those 2 worlds is, I guess what I love working on, like very specific, very precise about the approach, about muscles, what you feel about the skill itself, but at the same time bringing in that, okay, you gotta like stop thinking right now, put more weight on that bar, and try not to die.
Yeah, I love that approach. I was just intrigued by the way you're taking it, because everyone has their own little ways that they take information and how they apply them. My way isn't the same as yours, but I can see the thought pattern.
Yeah.
And I think I can see how that would be helpful, and because it keeps it so simple to one specific area.
Yeah, and it's totally like from my very limited point of view, like running a gym, running a bigger gym, so to speak. I mean, we're still a boutique gym, but it's 120 people. So you gotta have some sort of process and structure to it, because otherwise it's just too much. Like for me, for my coaches, for my people. So as I said before, those 4-week cycles, like we target certain muscles, we talk about it, we activate them, we stress them, we use them, and then we move on. The next 4 weeks, it's something else, and it's just like you gotta give people a little bit of what they want, so you can give them what they need, right? It's a trade-off. It's always a trade-off.
Yeah.
Well, that's just the way it is. So that's. Well, I want to put more stuff on this out there, because if somebody wants to use it, it's perfectly fine. Like if it's of worth and value for some people, it's awesome. Just use it, take it, and put it in your toolbox.
Isn't that great for your creativity though as well? Because you get to then benefit other people, but you get the fulfillment from having created. And it's like you say, if it's one person, even if it's one person who takes it and they help one person, it goes wider and wider and wider, doesn't it?
I'm putting the work in because I don't want to answer questions for people. I want to help them raise questions about what they're doing. Not because I know it better, but I think there's some of the stuff that we were talking about in a lot of people's heads, and be like, oh, I thought about this, but I was not brave enough to actually articulate it or bring it up or talk to some other gym owners about it, because this is all about, okay, how much revenue are you making? What's your social media like? And how many assistants you have? And 25,000 members. And this is whatever, the gross income. That's great. And I'm the worst at financial stuff. I gotta mention this at this point. I'm the worst. So there's some people saving on this side. But just talking about it and offering some options, so maybe some coaches out there and gym owners can raise some questions, be like, oh, that doesn't sound too shitty. I can still run my CrossFit gym or my Zumba gym, use that stuff, and people will feel better and have better muscle activation and squat more, deadlift more, and they're just gonna be happy, right? And at the end of the day, as you said in the beginning, it's about helping people, and that includes coaches and gym owners, I guess.
Coaches are people.
Yeah, still.
Yeah.
At the very least, they're still people.
And if anybody comes to me who is a coach and wants help, then I get sort of a double benefit. I get to help the person who is the coach, and then they can implement what they like from my help onto the people that they help.
Yeah.
So it's a double benefit when coaches come to see me.
Yeah. And I mean, I've done a couple of workshops in gyms, which is great, because I just love working with people. And once I see them like implement stuff, like the next day, this is not, you need 6 months to educate something. Like this is, do this on Monday in your deadlift session with your people. Don't change anything on the programming. Don't kick all the barbells out. Don't buy all the sandbags. You're good. Use your own programming. Just give me 5 to 10 minutes and I'll educate on how to do it. And people are going to, like 3 out of 10 are going to PR the deadlift. It's like, fuck yeah, it's awesome. Like everybody won. It's like you won, like the guy won. It's that's how you should do it. Keep doing your CrossFit thing. Like I love it, because you're trying to help 150 people, 200 people with your CrossFit gym. This is great. Let me maybe add a little bit to the recipe, so people get more balanced, healthier, stronger, however you want to call it.
That's the difference in your approach, though, isn't it? I think a lot of fitness information out there is my way is the way and it's better than your way, which is absolutely not what you're saying or what I'm saying.
No, man, I'm so lost at some point. I mean, I'm glad I have the gym so I have like a proof of concept, and it's not just all in my head, because whenever I have an idea, I use the coaches. We use our own training, obviously, to test all that stuff. And it kind of calms me down to, okay, this is not just a stupid idea. It might actually be working, which is nice. So when somebody like my coach on Friday picks up a 150 kilo sandbag and just walks with it for 150 meters, 150 kilos for 20 meters. Let's not exaggerate here. And he can deadlift 150 kilos with a barbell. It's like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. So I see the training is working. And it just shows how much more work a barbell deadlift is, which is awesome, which is fine. I love it too. But it just shows, okay, this is a whole different level of strength training, whether you're using a sandbag or a barbell. And you're going to decide if you want to put in the time and work. I'm all for it. But this is why it's not working, or this is why it's working. And I think that's what we're all looking for, is like, why am I stalling my 100 kilo bench? Like, why am I not going to 105 kilos? Why can't I run a 5K in under 20 minutes? Why blah, 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 blah. I think that's what I hope that's what we're all working on.
That was the biggest catalyst for me in terms of getting to this point, was I had to fix myself.
Oh yeah.
So having had big injuries when I was younger, when I started to compete in Olympic weightlifting, well, those imbalances start to show up again. When you're pushing as far as you can on clean and jerk, the hips start to take the battering of the 10 years of imbalances I've had since surgeries. So for people to not take that into account is a big thing as well. It can't just be the 5 sets of 5 mentality, because we're not all in perfect shape. We've got work to do.
Yeah. And like, we should talk about this more openly. Like, I competed in CrossFit. I was not very good at it still. I made it to some nice European competitions 10 years ago, which was awesome. I would have never reached the same level like now if I trained the same way. And my body just broke. That's not CrossFit's mistake. That's my mistake, because I didn't know any better. I'm not blaming anybody but me. So that was literally my drive and my fire to figure out, okay, how can I fix myself? As you just said before, like herniated discs, I hate ACL tears, MCL tears, like you name it, torn. It's not torn, semi-torn biceps tendon, because of not being educated enough, so to speak, about training. This is not weightlifting's fault or CrossFit's fault. This is my fault. And I think a lot of people have questions about this. So let's not provide answers, but takes on or views on how are you doing it, how I'm doing it, how, I don't know, Dan from Outcast Swansea is doing it. It's just, there's awesome coaches out there, man.
And that's something that isn't really talked about, isn't it? That our past experiences and the way that we are will inform our injuries going forward.
Yeah. Whenever somebody... Go on.
It's not just that one deadlift that tears the bicep.
No.
And it's not necessarily even the repeated cross grip on the deadlift that tears the bicep. There's a bigger problem. So that was what I had to learn. Mm-hmm. What's the theme of the bigger problems? And then if we can address those bicep tears, those ACL tears might not need to happen.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest contributions that us as coaches could do, is like talk openly about mistakes that we made. Like I messed up my body. I mean, voluntarily, but unconsciously to some point, to some degree, because I just didn't know how to do it any better. And I mean, I'm almost 41 now. So as time moves on, like I just want to share those stories and how to deal with those issues and injuries, and maybe in a different way than just outsourcing it again. It'd be like, okay, my back hurts, I go to the physio, I go to the doctor. Like, there's a time and place for that. But what if you try it first? Like, you yourself. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's just an option. Like, you don't have to do it. Like, there's an easy way out. You can have surgery. You can do blah blah blah. But just try it and see what's on the other side of your injury. Like, I'm glad for every single injury I had afterwards, not during it. But like, as you said, like, it made me think about how to fix myself.
And that's wider as well than just health and fitness, isn't it? Isn't it? Would you really wish away any of your experiences, because there's lessons in all of them?
And I mean, let's make a little tangent here. If you got 5 more minutes, we're an hour and 50 minutes in. I don't want to take up too much of your time, right? A little tangent. So having an injury is a problem, is a challenge, it's a hurdle, or however you want to call it. How many hurdles are we facing each and every single day, right? Whether it's getting out of bed, whether it's dealing with our kids, whether it's shitty day at work, shitty day at whatever happens, like traumas, physical, mental. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we have to deal with, especially nowadays with information and knowledge and cell phones and all that stuff that's coming up. But nobody's teaching us how to proactively not find a solution to deal with it, but how to proactively deal with it. Yeah, manage it. Right? That's not being taught. It's like, okay, cell phone is here now. You can either stare at it for 12 hours straight, or you don't look at it. Like, that's the only approach. Like, there's I think there's already like cell phone retreats being advertised somewhere. Like, you go to Bali and they're going to take this. Yes, that is one approach. But what about somebody, not me, obviously, but somebody is teaching us how to, I mean, a cell phone is probably the greatest thing ever, if you use it correctly. Same with training, same with you name it. And that's what I think, that's what training can teach us, is a lesson of how, like, what do you need? What do you not need at a certain point, and how to proactively figure it out?
That's
not being dependent on a third person. Yes, sometimes you need help, absolutely, 100%. Maybe it's a Kickstarter. Right?
It's like a guidance more than outsourcing the help, isn't it?
Yeah,
and that isn't that what coaching is?
Well, it should be. And a gym is on a higher level in terms of outsourcing a problem, because you can come in 3 times a week, and I appreciate it. I get that. Maybe it's an 80% outsourcing and 20% insourcing, right? But it's 20% more than before, which is great. And then there's people maybe more like you, like, okay, I want to solve the problem like 100% in my gym alone. I don't need anybody else, or maybe like 95%. I need like a good talk every now and then, just to share an idea or share a story or a mistake, right? So it shouldn't be on us to decide what that percentage should look like, but at least there should be some sort of, okay, insourcing your solution of your problem, whatever it is.
Yeah, but that comes with everything, doesn't it? It's ownership of your own destination.
Yeah.
Nobody else can tell us what our path looks like. And I think, especially in the UK, there's a large tendency to want saving.
To what?
To want saving, to want somebody to save us from wherever we're at. And as soon as we can make that switch from wanting to be saved to wanting to help ourselves, that's when I find all of the best benefits come.
Yeah, I can tell you, Chris, it's not only in the UK. It's not only in the UK, trust me. No, it's not. It's everywhere, almost everywhere. All right, famous last question. If you had an infinite amount of money, an infinite amount of time, infinite amount of resources, like everything provided that you would need, what would you do?
I would still ground it in time. I wouldn't want to take infinite time, but I would want to create a safe hub for people. to just be themselves. I mean, it's a lot of like what we've talked about in this conversation in terms of how can we do that through movement. But I would want to make it a place where people can be themselves. So not like a gym, more of a hub for people who want to do better. Mm-hmm. That's it, just one step better. And then I'd probably just put all the gadgets that I want in there. So I would have global gym section, probably saunas, ice baths, cryotherapy, float tanks, especially float tanks. I love float tanks. Mm-hmm. And just have a community place for people who want to just do better. That's it.
I think that place that you just described should be essential for workplaces. And I'm not talking about the corporate gym in the basement of Google. I'm talking about somebody taking that physical education part and be like, all right, so you have a physical problem, you have a project problem. It's like, okay, where are you stuck? And I'm going to help you with training to kind of express what's going on, like maybe get rid of some thoughts and barriers in your head. It's like that should be like, I watched a weird video of Arnie, but it's so beautiful because he was asked in the podcast, why you still train? Like you're 70 something, 75. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger is 75, isn't he? Whatever. He's over 70. And he got asked by those young YouTube influencers, like, why do you still train? Like you get all the money in the world. You don't need to train. Like, and he was like, well, I eat breakfast every day. I go to sleep every day. I talk to my kids every day. It's like, that's why I train every day. And that thought alone is so valuable for me, because now it's like, okay, I'll work out 3 times a week to prep for a sport, to, I don't know, burn calories or whatever the fuck it is. But it's like, no. I'm sorry. The message is, from now on, you have to train every single day. And you don't have to, like, you should every single day. That doesn't mean lifting weights. It's just, that's essential. Like that's normal. I'm sorry, but this is not like a weird hippie challenge. Everybody should be doing this. I'm sorry to be the bearer of the bad news, but this is what you should be doing. Whether it's walking your dog, lifting weights, in combination of all of it, like this is normal. You should be doing something an hour every single day. 6 days a week, 7 days a week, whatever you fancy. But this is normal. It's not, if your doctor tells you you're doing awesome because you're walking your dog twice a week, I'm sorry, but this is not true. This is wrong.
Mm. And isn't the messaging of the fitness industry creating that problem?
Of course, because it always has to be like faster, and then you implement and then you supplement, and it's always getting easier. And it's like, no, it's not. It's getting harder. Like the better you get, the more you have to push, the more intensity, the better you activate your muscles, the harder the thruster will feel or the squat will feel. It's like, I'm sorry, but that's reality. Like if you don't have a clue about anything and you want to get, I don't know, you want to get stuck at 30 kilos sandbags for the rest of your life, that's great. I don't judge you on it, but progress is something else.
Progress is inevitable as well, though. If we point in the right direction, it's inevitable.
Yes, and I mean, not to go on a big attention here, but if we see like the issues with it's called society nowadays, like what we're lacking of, the thriving, the hard work, the just the feeling of you can achieve anything. It's like, I don't think so. You have all the opportunities, 100%. You can go to Harvard, sign up for Harvard, like right now, online, do it online. You can go to the moon, whatever it is. Yes, you have all the opportunities, but bridging the gap is like, okay, you got to put the work in, like for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, every single day. Like, and I think that's why training is so important, because it can teach you that daily lesson, whatever it is. Could be 5 minutes of sandbag squats, could be an hour of hiking, could be like, it's not a workout every day. It's It's physical education of yourself every single day for the rest of your life, 365, 24/7.
And it always will bring you back to you.
Yeah. And especially, I think in times where there's so much information coming towards us, like there's so much to digest mentally. There's so much, like an infinite amount of information out there that we cannot process. Like you have your cell phones, you have the TV, you cannot digest it. Like giving your mind a break by hard physical work, like what my grandparents still did, like farming. That was literally like 10 hours of farming a day. Like the best meditation you could ever do, like hard work, right? And I'm not saying everybody should be farming, but maybe everybody should be farming for like an hour a day. Being a lawyer, being a gym owner, being a financial advisor, being whatever it is, being a teacher, being a kid for sure. All right, man. I think we could go on forever.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that this would not be or will not be the last time that we two talked, which I would highly appreciate if we can figure something out for the second meeting.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Chris. Appreciate it. Just tell the millions of listeners of my podcast, don't laugh, I'm serious. Tell the 15 people that are listening to this podcast, your Instagram handle, your website, whatever you want to.
You can find everything on coach_gators, I think it is.
On Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram. Everything else can be linked off the link tree from there.
Perfect. All right, man. Thanks again. Really appreciate you taking the time, and maybe we just went a step further into the right direction today.
I hope so. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Have a good day, and we'll talk soon.
You too.
Bye, man. See ya.
Bye-bye.